That must have been interesting, the sense that you were propagating the philosopher's stone to
To
the brethren.
and it was going many other
Yeah.
places. A lot of people were
No, that's what I
interested.
meant. I mean, through the whole sort of network of free
Culture,
explorers.
yeah. Well, and it wasn't so much the mushroom; it was the information. The knowledge of the technique. It was like the atom bomb or something. It was not whether you had it or not. It was whether or not you knew how to do it. And
So it's interesting to see the way that other plants now. I mean, if the mushroom parasited on print pamphlet technology, now the more emerging plants that are re-encountered have a different
so
propagation device of information, if that's the forward.
in one case, Brazilian cults. In another case, almost landscaping, like salvia. I don't know if you've seen those clumps of salvia on the road, but all the blue flowers and all that. Yeah. The mushroom is the most insidious and amusing because it seems to associate itself with human beings. Like, for instance, one of the densest psilocybin ecologies in the world is Oregon and Western Washington. Well, one of the main industries of those areas where these mushrooms are so dense is the production of sod to be shipped all over the country and world to be pushed into malls and hotel lawns and golf courses to spread. So it's essentially an enormous economic engine for spreading psilocybin spores throughout the planet.
What happens to people that lets them tune into a deeper level of intent, that wakes them up from the spell of mere consumerism and the kind of subjectivity that is, the manipulation of images and desires that constitutes consumerism and which dominates many people's lives?
Well, then they probably head for deeper values, either Buddhism, shamanism, their own, whatever lies in their own ethnic background. Because in fact, civilization is a carnival. I mean, it's a cheap, it's a delusion of a solution. So anybody who sees past the front door probably wants really real structured values. And so that's where all the conservative resistance comes from. The fundamentalist Christians, Orthodox Jews, Buddhists, all of these people are saying, well, hey, wait a minute, we don't want to go down this path only so far. And that's probably a good break. Otherwise, we would create a civilization that was essentially a mall. And there's enough of that anyway.
So in that sense, that turn towards deeper values, even if sometimes they take a conservative form, is ultimately a kind of healthy balance to just the sheer
rush toward novelty.
Yeah,
I think so.
And do you see psychedelics playing a role in opening up that kind of?
It depends on how it's presented. It depends on the psychedelic. If it comes along with some wizened 90-year-old Indian from South America, it's hard to see that we're abandoning ourselves to the trivial and the concocted. And so it's a marketing and packaging issue, basically.
And so what would that look like then, if you were?
Well, I'd say the wrongly packaged version would be some kind of like Castaneda is a formulaic cult. Do these things, take these drugs, follow these instructions, and moral obligation will flee from your ken. Nobody can be that foolish. If, on the other hand, you sincerely pursue this stuff, grow the plants, try to understand it, try to revivify the rituals and figure out what it's all about, well, that's an authentic push towards spirituality, and a very authentic push towards spirituality, and probably fruitful.
Do you think in that process the actual handling of the plants, growing them, getting to know their cycles is necessary?
Yeah, because that's the level, that's the speed, that's the speed on which nature makes this stuff, brings it to the surface and invites its contemplation. And it's also probably the right speed at which to assimilate this stuff, to come to terms with it.
So in that sense, part of the problem with synthetic psychedelics is that they fit too easily into a kind of consumerist model.
Lifestyle, right.
That
it's not a product. It's not something you get the drug of the month or something. Although all these things have been proposed and some have been tried, it seems to me the shamanic drug of the month is not a very appealing idea.
what are the emotional, psychological, ethical expressions of really kind of genuinely long-term good psychedelic people?
What is the long-term ethical expression of the good of psychedelic people?
Yeah.
Well, it's some kind of effort to separate shit from shinola. In other words, it's some kind of effort to distill a truth from the blooming, buzzing confusion of the universe. So it's a branch of, I don't know what you would say, cognitive science or something like that. It's an effort to define the human essence away from its content or something like that. And you see what I mean?
Explain a little more.
Well, it's a branch of psychology. It's a self-study in psychology. So anybody who's taking psychedelics is, I assume, trying to present a truer image of themselves to other people and the world through this process of distillation of understanding. And that's where the connection to alchemy and all that comes in. This distillation of essence away from the dross, confusion, and Gnostic muck of the world is a kind of like a Jungian individuation process or something like that.
And that manifests in the call, even in normal life, to present it yourself, articulate oneself differently.
I think so, yeah. And causes people to be willing to take chances, both pharmacological and sociological, by being involved in something so marginal, Because in the big civilizations, this kind of shamanic stuff is definitely very marginal. Most people just don't do it.
Do you feel that characterizes the overall, or in some significant way, the kind of people that you've met for the last...
It depends on how often they do it. Some people are doing it because their friends are doing it. Some people are doing it because some I don't know, they're feeling some kind of social pressure. But the people who are really called to do it are rare. The people who say, well, I get loaded 10 times a year on high-dose psychedelics, or 6 times a year. That's a lot. I mean, that means your lifestyle is pretty much defined by all that stuff. Yeah, I would love to know what the real numbers are. How many people a year get really loaded once you get the Amazon Indians out, the Mexicans out, and a few of these people out. It's hard to even know how you begin to make an estimate.
Before your sickness, how often did you do large journeys?
Less and less often. I mean, I noticed that through the 90s, but maybe 4 or 5 times a year but I always felt never enough, never enough.
So do you have the sense that the tripping, you on some level are getting something done?
The tripping is getting something
done? Yes,
done?
that there's something being worked out, like continuously and progressively?
Yeah, I assume that basically the download called history, meaning all the technology, social innovation, philosophy, art, fashion, architecture, is some kind of dialogue with this higher mind. I'm not entirely comfortable with that, but this higher mind that keeps showing these different facets through the mist. That science and psychedelic and all this is a dialogue with the mathematical deep structure of nature, and that somehow as you get that out, there's this sense of progress, more than a sense of progress. And I don't, in terms of what is it all leading toward or what it's about, it must be something about like the spiritualization of matter, that matter is evolving toward quintessence or essence or something like that. And, we're the startled witnesses to this thing because we're part of this stuff that I called emergent properties, or, the side effects, you could almost say, of the universal emergence of matter into spirit. Because that's what biology is. I think biology is the quantum mechanical magnification of uncertainty into macrophysical space, so that essentially we're chemical systems that by some means yet to be understood amplify quantum mechanical uncertainty into dimensions such as we see, and that permits these emergent properties and systems and morphologies to show themselves. And that's the trick, or that's the trick explained on one level.